What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This podcast is sponsored by TonaLaw. If you're an attorney and you're looking for a trusted partner in New York personal injury referrals, TonaLaw has been doing this since 2001. We're the go-to New York personal injury law firm for attorneys and law firms across the U.S. At TonaLaw, we pay legal fee participation, referring attorneys in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. Refer us a case today and experience the TonaLaw difference. Call us now to discuss how we can work together at 844-TonaLaw or visit us at TonaLaw.com. If you're calling because you heard us on the podcast, just mention Lead Counsel when you make the referral, and they will get you on the phone with me. We've got a special episode for you today. We got a takeover episode. Adam Rossen, who's been on the show. This is what, your third time now?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's my third time.
Third time.
I got to get up to like the 5-timers club for SNL.
We were talking while we were both away in Europe. I thought it'd be awesome if Adam would just help us out, do a takeover episode. He agreed. So here he is. What's up, Adam? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Tom? What's going on, everybody in the Lead Counsel Podcast universe, the Podiverse?
Yeah.
Hello.
So let's just get ripping, man. You were in Europe at the same time I was. So take it away, man. It's your episode. Run it.
All right. Yeah. So look, we both went to Europe in different places. I had a pre-planned trip to go to Lake Como, Italy, spent a few days in Zurich. I would have loved to have been with you in Portugal had I planned that trip first, but unfortunately, or fortunately, I planned a different one. And I know we were looking at everybody's picks, but it was an amazing time. So we had been talking about both of us being able to get away from our firms and just go to Europe and have a nice vacation. And so really, Tom, I wanted to, we'll get into my stuff in a little bit, but really let's talk about you going on the Mastermind. You went to John Fisher's Mastermind, you know, and one time out of every year, he does a big international trip. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. I went to Curacao. It was with my wife. It was amazing. And this time it was in Portugal. Tell us how the trip was, and we'll kind of just get right into it.
So the trip was amazing. I went away the 29th of June we landed Monday the 14th. So we were away for about 16, 17 days. Trip was amazing. And I don't know, man, it's funny the way John Fisher's thing works for me, because I'm always like, I'm not going to do that, right? I always have it in my mind, like, I'll go to the domestic ones. I'm not going to do the international. And this year I was like, am I crazy? They were all going to these beautiful areas of the world. Why not try it? I left there saying, we got to do this again. Like, it was an amazing trip. It was a really amazing trip. And I learned a ton of stuff that pertains to the business, but mostly about myself, like just stuff that I learned, you know, so I thought it'd be good if we just talked about it.
Yeah. Well, and before we get right into that, the cool thing about the international ones that he does is just by it being an international trip, it's not going to be 50 people going on this trip. So how many people were there who then brought their family? So I would count, even though I know you went with you and your wife and your daughter, I would still count you as one person.
Right. So there was a fair amount. We broke off into 2 groups, and in our group, there had to be at least 10 of us, and the other group had at least 10 as well. So it's growing, right? So there had to be about 20 to 25 by estimation, people I had never met before. I met this cool woman named Rachel. She's in the Mastermind group, young attorney out of Atlanta. Her last name's escaped me, but I'm going to have her on the show. And a bunch of people of varying sizes. Some people further along in their journey, some people, you know, newer to the journey. And it was just a cool mix, and also just really cool to socialize outside of the room.
Right. And a lot of John's groups will have 40 to 50 people, maybe 5 breakout rooms of 10. And when you're there, it's hard to make, deep relationships with 50 people. So here you are, 20 people, 2 groups of 10. It's a lot more intimate. And I'm sure you were able to get to meet a lot of other people, plus their families. And that's always cool. I think when you are able to have a dinner with not just, somebody like Mario Godoy, but then hang out with Mario's wife, or, Bill Umansky and Zara, or, or whoever it may be. So
right.
Just talk to us about how the dynamic was a little different when you're able to bring your family and be around 20 other law firm owners plus their families.
It was cool because having the spouses there, they could commiserate with what it's like being married to the owners of the firm, right? So my wife and Mario's wife had a lot in common with Jody and Zara, all these awesome people that I think I leaned over to somebody at one point during dinner and I was like, we have an amazing group of spouses. Like nothing happens without the support of our spouses, whether they work in the business like some of our wives do or our spouses do, or they have their own separate things like John and his wife, where, she's a judge, right, Lisa? Right. And so it's just a nice mix of really good, really likable people. And as I'm getting older too, I'm realizing like I'm going to be an empty nester in about 3 to 5 years. I better start figuring out like the group that I want to travel with, the people that are empty nesters that are, doing the same things that we're doing and experiencing the same experiences.
And I think it's also important to realize, or have our spouses realize, and I don't want to use the word normal, but that it's common that being, people like us, like you, like me, like a Seth, like a Bill Umansky, right? Or Mario Godoy, or the other people that were there. It's actually a lot more common than people think. It's just these are our groups to see that, hey, we're actually out there, right? Because in our communities back home, there's not a lot of people like us. So I think there's tons of value for our spouses and then our family members to be like, oh, okay, these are other people that are very similar to my dad, my husband, who are going through these things. And so what was it like for your daughter? Your daughter's 15, right?
My daughter's 15.
She's in high school.
She's in high school. She's going into 10th grade. She met a boy in Portugal, from Portugal, which I got the title of the GOAT because I actually gave her the space to talk to this boy. I said to my wife, because they were looking at each other on the beach or whatnot in Algarve. And I said to my wife, I go, let's just go up and grab something at the bar really quick and see what happens, but keep her in our sight. And sure enough, 3 seconds later, she was talking to this boy.
You couldn't bring your shotgun to Portugal, right?
I couldn't bring my shotgun. But look, he was a good kid and it was an innocent thing. And what was cool is how close I was able to get with my daughter that she felt comfortable even talking about that stuff, right? My wife says that's a pretty rare thing that, your daughter is going to talk to you about her romantic feelings that she has as they're emerging. But because I gave her the space to just be her, that was one of the great things about it, that I got the title of the GOAT because I made it happen. Now, I can't say I would have done that if the person lived around the block from us, but, Portugal was a safe bet.
Hey, there might be some visa applications in your next future. You never know.
Somebody might be calling Mario. You never know, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's great that you're able to share and blend that together. So often people talk about work-life balance, right? And I don't like the word balance. I like harmony better. Yeah. And so how was it for you to kind of achieve that harmony and the blending of, look, it's work, but it's also play. It's also family time. It's fun time. It's everything.
So the fun part of it for me was it blended the two things I love the most, which is that peer group where you just constantly talking about parts of the business. I love that. Like I thrive off of that. Not so much my wife. But to then be able to go jet skiing with my daughter for an hour, 20 minutes after lunch, and just make it pure pleasure downtime. So I really didn't feel like I was working at all. Like it was high level thought and deep think stuff that we were doing, but blending it with really good food, really exotic locations. I mean, if you haven't been to Algarve, I would say we were lucky. We did Algarve first, which was a beach vacation, sort of. That's where the Mastermind was. And then we did Lisbon second. Lisbon is like you expect of every city. It's gritty. It's raw. There's some really nice areas, some not so nice areas. But Algarve, dude, I landed and within 2 hours, I forgot that I had an office. My wife was like, I have never seen you decompress or relax. And it was a running joke with everybody because from 2 to 4 every day, I fell asleep on the beach. 2 to 4 or 2 to 3. It's one of my favorite things to do. And everybody's like, I cannot believe you literally just fall asleep for an hour and a half straight. And then you get up, you took your little nap or whatever. And I'm not a napper, but by the first 2 hours, I was completely unplugged. And I didn't check email once for the entire 17 days. I didn't call the office. I didn't talk to anybody.
Wow. See, and that's something that I still didn't do on my trip. So we can kind of compare and contrast. So Tom, what are some of the big takeaways and lessons that you've learned from this?
So one, there's always going to be stress in the business, right? You know, I was working probably 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week leading up to this because, as you know, we had some turnover. As you know, we had some personnel shortages. As you know, we had the same problems everybody does. But I made the decision I was getting on this plane and I was not going to work at all. And basically, I did that. And I realized that control is an illusion. And what you really have to do is be willing to let go to see what you have going on in your office. Your office, the marketplace talks to you, right? So if a client leaves us citing lack of communication, I don't get emotional about it. I see that as something like we have to improve this. So letting go to gain control is one of the reasons I love Europe, because it changes me as a person. And it does that because of the time shift. It necessitates you're sleeping when everybody else is awake and vice versa. So unless you want to be miserable and working from these beautiful vistas and taking time away from your family, just let it go. And that led me into my next takeaway, which was it all works out. It always all works out how it's supposed to, you know, but we're control freaks with type A, AAA personalities, you know.
Give us some examples here. So to let go to gain control, you can say that. I know that. Easier said than done. So how did you mentally prepare yourself and then break free from the addiction that a lot of us have of the email addiction, the Slack or Google Chat addiction or Microsoft Teams, whatever it is, the notifications, the check-ins, right? How did, easier said than done?
So I will tell you that one of the things I did about a month ago, maybe 2 months now, is I completely got out of email. I think it's the lowest investment. If you value your time, you and I talk about this all the time. I think we agreed we were valuing our time at, let's say, $2,000 an hour. And there is no amount of time I should spend on email. So I got out about 2 months ago. I said, I'm reading Dan Martell's book. I went deep dive into Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. I have somebody here who's an administrative coordinator. I wanted it to be somebody in the US in my office that I really trusted. She signed all kinds of confidentiality paperwork because she'd have exposure to everything in my emails. And I trained her on Dan Martell's system and we started doing it about 30 days out. So I didn't even feel the need. I took email off my phone 30 days ago and my wife said, no, you're laughing, but listen to this. My wife got on it.
I'm loving
my
it.
wife got on an L10 meeting and said, Tom is like a different person after getting out of email. And she now wants to do the same thing because it's an addiction. It's truly a dopamine addiction. And what I realized is how bad it hijacks our time. And now I'm reading a book by, I think it's Cal Newport, who wrote Deep Work.
Yeah, Deep Work, Cal Newport.
And it's 100% true. Like you have all these residual things that pull your attention. So before that, when I was in Vermont, I talked about it on a prior episode, I had downloaded an app. I'll pull it up and because I highly recommend it to everybody to get started with it. It's called Focus Lock. So I had started to break the addiction by bricking my phone 24 hours at a clip. And listen to this. We have been in Vermont now for several years, hiking and all of that stuff. And all we said was, we've seen everything. We saw a bear. We saw this. We wanted to see a moose. And we have not been able to see a moose. And they're actually pretty rare. The one day that I started to brick my phone, I'm looking out the window. I go, holy crap. Stop the car. We stop the car. We back up. Full-blown, mature, adult female moose standing in the field for about 15 minutes. We just sat there in awe. Like it might not sound like a big thing, but my family thanked me after because they said you were so present, we would have missed it. Because my daughter's always on her phone. My wife was driving because I hate to drive. And she hates the way I drive. So, again, it taught me the value of, I'll put it this way, because I'm a lot older than you, I think, right? I'm 56. I'm probably
I'm 44. So
okay. So
I have a young wife, so I don't look a day over 36, right?
Okay. Well, you look way younger than me. So I will tell you this. The person that goes through my head all the time when I'm trying to calculate the value of time is my father. Because when he was in hospice, I'm sitting with him and I had taken off 90 days from my practice. I had taken my laptop but I said to my office, I trained you guys for this. I'm spending the last 90 days with my father. And I remembered the value of time spent with him. And the last thing I would want in my last 90 days was to be like, I went on TikTok or Instagram so much that I missed the real moments of life. And so that reset everything for me. I put a countdown timer on my phone. I got 8,400 days left till my 80th birthday, 8,415. And it was 17 days higher when I started that trip. So like, it gets you into a philosophical state of mind. Like, all right, the business can get so stressful that you get very myopic about it. And the international trip, especially when you go to a big city like Lisbon, the oldest city in Europe, they told us, is you realize it's all over in the blink of an eye. And so I just cannot see spending any amount of time in a foreign city and missing the magic of that because I feel anchored to my phone. I was like, look, let the office burn down. What am I going to do? I'll go back. I'll rebuild it. Like I can't miss the magic moments with my family because I won't have them forever. None of us will.
Right. I think that's so important. So many of us, you're right. We always say, well, we need to step back, work on the business, not in the business, but it's still so focused, whether it's on or in, we're just going.
Yeah.
And, I definitely disconnected a little bit when I was away, but not to that level. So when we're done with this,
you'll get there.
Yeah. Well, when we're done with this, off this, I want to, if you have some SOPs on that and everything, what you're doing, I'm definitely going to need it. So I don't know if I should email you though, because maybe you won't get it. Or somebody else will handle the email.
Yes,
right?
I meet with Martina every morning at 8:30 for half an hour, like Martel says. And honestly, dude, listen, I forget what famous general. I was reading a book called Stillness is the Key. And it was a famous military general back in the days before there was email and everything, just mail, who said to his concierge or whatever he called his right-hand person, do not bring me my mail for 30 days. So every day you would give me mail, but it's 30 days old. And you know what he found out? Everything took care of itself anyway.
So that goes to the second thing. It all works out.
It all works out, man. Look, let's say, God forbid, I lose clients. Then I'll be a smaller law firm. It'll all work out. And I'll rebuild and it'll all work out. It all works out. But we are so driven. And I can just speak for me that you're worried the phone's going to stop ringing. You're worried that the business is going to fail. And I've been doing it since 2001. So I was like, look, man, I've been good for 24 years. It'll all work out. And it does. It does. Right. It all works out.
Do you have an example of something that might have been an issue while you were gone that did work out?
So they handled everything, right? So I had added another manager about 30 days prior who I was training at the head of personal injury, and she's fantastic. So I have now managers for every single department, finance, all of it. And it's a strong shaping up leadership team. So they really took it upon themselves. I had done a deep dive in operations before I left for several weeks, and that was very beneficial. That showed me where a lot of opportunity lies. And I had to get over the ego of feeling bad for myself or feeling defensive, right? I just had to get into the real of what was going on. I don't want to say my clients love me when only about 75% love me and 25% are like, yeah, we're not going to call you again. The communication wasn't great. Let's be real and say, how do we get to 90%? How do we get to 95%, right? So those issues still went on, but somebody was here to take care of them, and they took care of them, right? And it's never going to be issue free. It's a fallacy. If anybody says you're going to go away and everything is fine, yeah, everything worked out. I came back. We went through a list of about 10 issues today that they had taken care of. I said, do you need me on anything? The answer was no. I said, okay, if you need me, I'm back. Tell me what you need, right? And that was the next takeaway that I had was for anybody that's saying they can't do this. I can't go for 2.5 weeks. I've done it for a month, by the way, but I'm getting back to doing these longer trips now. Your business and the marketplace tell you what you need in your absence, right? You get too close to the fires and all of a sudden you're just firefighting. And so you can't fix the issues because the issue is not Tom should be handling all the files or Tom should be handling all the challenging clients or client challenges. It should be the business is saying we have a repeat issue. What's the fix? Let's look at the accountability chart. And you can't get that when every fire is at the tip of your nose.
Right. You need to step back, gain perspective. And that's why at these masterminds, it's so easy for us to look at somebody else's firm, their problems, and be like, it's so easy. They just got to do X, Y, and Z. And
well, that was a big epiphany.
Yeah.
That was a big epiphany that I had, right? You know, we were talking about it. I was so you want to hear a wild group. It was me, Umansky and Seth Price were facilitating, and Mario. And then we had a bunch of attorneys that were younger than us or newer in their journey. But you want to talk about 4 people with undiagnosed ADD or potentially diagnosed ADD. It was like if you remember as a kid, they had those Super Bowls you got at the supermarket.
Yeah.
Imagine taking 4 of those, shooting them out of a rocket, and, like 70 miles an hour, and just letting them bounce all over the room, because we were just like all over the place. But a lot of good came out of it. A lot of good came out of the day that we spent working on stuff, and, and the conversations that we had after the fact.
So that's so important, for number 3, the business tells you what you need. I think it really does. And being able to step back, totally spot on. Again, these are things that are easier said than done, but you can't do them unless you truly understand. Awareness is always the first step to making a change or improving yourself. So, okay, great. What's the next one that you got?
So the next one was perspective is subjective, right? So I remember how high my stress level was before I left. And then I'm on the beach looking at this beautiful beach and these massive cliffs of Algarve that have been there for thousands and thousands of years. And I was like, you got to remove yourself from that day to day, because it really is a liar, right? The true perspective is every business has these pain points. I brought up something the last day we were there. We took a morning swim. It was me and 2 other guys. And I brought something up that had happened with regard to lien work in my office. Liens is a big thing in personal injury at the end of the case. And they were like, oh, that happened to me. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. It's not just me, like you said. And sometimes in our offices, my office or your office, like I look around my office, I'm in a closed off office, soundproofed, and literally it's lonely. Right. And so you sometimes feel very alone, which is very often why I'm texting or calling you, Bill Umansky, Seth Price, all of you guys, because I need different perspective. A lot of the time we all know the answers, like you were saying earlier, right? But to get a fresh perspective from somebody outside is so cleansing. Right. And again, that perspective is malleable. It is subjective. When your stress is high or money's tight, the world is ending and everything's crap. And then when money's great and business is great, then everything is rosy and you're the king of the world. Right. And you need perspective on both. It's never as good or as bad as it seems. Don't ever, buy your own bullshit, and don't get sucked into the world is ending. It's not, right? So being out at this mastermind with these people really helped to set perspective in a different light for me.
Yeah, and I had some moments with that too in Lake Como. Here I am in Lake Como, which was my first time there. It was so gorgeous. This glacial lake between 2 of the Italian Alps. And just looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, St. Augustine is the oldest city in the United States, or at least in Florida, I think still in the United States or whatever, in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm like, this is nothing compared to Italy and Europe and how old it is. And even still, this area has been inhabited for 2,000, maybe 2,500 years, but that's nothing compared to when this lake was formed and when these Alps were formed millions of years ago, when dinosaurs roamed,
Right.
this area. And it gave me a lot of perspective too, while we're having our boat day or traveling around the cliff and going, wow, like a lot of these problems, yes, they are very important. And we're both in B2C spaces where we help people at some of the worst times in their lives. So the work that we do is so valuable to humankind and to our communities. But at the end of the day, a lot of these problems and issues, like in the grand scheme of things, they're not important at all. And so
Right.
I had a lot of that time where I'm just looking out and seeing nature and the beauty of nature and our earth. It's really incredible. Really incredible stuff.
Yeah, and I had that same epiphany because we did a bunch of boat trips and we went to the caves of Algarve, and those caves are all limestone. And the thought that hit me, and it's going to sound bizarre, but how many waves had to hit limestone to carve out those caves over the hundreds of thousands of years that it took to form, right? Or whatever it is, however long it's been going on since the water receded and the dinosaurs stopped walking the earth. But, again, it was about perspective. You're looking up these massive, massive cliffs of limestone, and you can't help but feel small. And then everything that you had in your head is small too. You're like, what really matters is the people you have with you, right? Your family. Yep. That's it. Like, because at the end of the day, the rest of it all fades away really quick.
Right. Okay. So what's the next big epiphany that you had? We're on number 5 now.
So the next one this was work related, which was most law firms and most law firm owners really struggle with operations, right? Understanding what operations is, understanding why it's so important to law firms, understanding the levels of operators that are out there. I have a new understanding of that as well. And everybody's got different opinions on it. And part of the problem is a lot of firms, and I'm talking, it's a mass epidemic, are mislabeling people. And it's really wreaking havoc in ways they don't even understand. Because in small and medium-sized law firms, they don't teach you any of this stuff. Big law is different.
Right. You didn't learn this in law school?
I did not learn this in law school, along with like 1,000 other things.
Is it too late for us to get a refund on our tuition? No, I don't think
it
so,
is
right?
for me, because I paid everything off. But as soon as they announced all the tuition forgiveness, I'm like, now they announce it, like all these years later after I paid off my tuition. But, the reality of it is most lawyers understand law and lawyering. And if they look at their true stress points, it's going to be one of the other buckets that they need education on, whether it's finance, marketing, or operations. But the one that I'm seeing standing out as a glaring issue is operations, right? Having a middle management team, and then once you're growing to past 5 to 10 million, trying to get to an executive level team. And you still need that other level of management, right? Because the executive level, they're strategy driven. They don't do the thing. They still need people to delegate to, lead, manage, and hold accountable. And that's the middle management team. So EOS doesn't really give you a lot of color on that. And that was a big frustration for me once I realized. I'm like, man, I've been doing EOS almost 3 years now.
Right.
And they should have wrote another book or another chapter on what's the next level. You have your leadership team. You got to do your right person, right seat analysis of that leadership team. And assuming they are all the right people, I'm telling you that definitively, I'm going to say they all are going to be middle management, right? It's not a C-suite. There's a different level out there.
So I've been going through this for a while with EOS. We're on, I think, 4.5 years into EOS. And when you talk about operations, I still for a long time, I'd walk around and go, what is operations? Are we talking about the way that the legal product or the legal service is being delivered? Are we talking about HR? Are we talking about just general firm SOPs? Are we talking about, maybe M&A or opening another office? Or how do we, what is operations?
So my understanding of it now is way different than it was before. But basically, in a nutshell, at the highest level, COO, you are talking about somebody who is a co-pilot on strategy. It is a strategy position, but a true COO is also going to execute, right? So they take your vision, they help it materialize. They're the ones that do the hiring. They're the ones who troubleshoot and say, hey, Tom, you are out of phone calls. We're going to hire X, right? And so it's all of what you said. It's oversight of HR. And that's why typically I think the first C-suite hire that most firms make is a chief operating officer. Or a director.
Would you consider that an integrator? Because we've also debated, well, what is the integrator?
I do not love that title anymore. Integrator, because outside of law firms doing EOS or people doing EOS, no one knows what the hell that is. Everybody understands what operations is, right? So an integrator is a form of operator. Are they a operations manager? Are they a director of operations? Or are they a COO? Working with true C-suite executives and some recruiters that I've talked to really get my hands around the same question you had, they've enlightened me that there are 3 levels, right? There's COO, there's a director of operations below that, and then there is an operations manager. Operations managers are middle management, very task-driven, right? And it's not strategy. So if you find yourself getting frustrated with your leadership team, a good exercise to do is, why are you frustrated? If you feel they're coming to you on an L10 meeting and they're reporting problems to you or still asking stuff where you're going, why are you asking me this? That might be a signal that you got to say, am I too involved in operations? You may not want to replace your operations manager or director of ops. You may want to replace yourself in the operations. And that's where I think you got to wrap your head around a COO, which is a higher ticket, right? Higher price ticket. That's my understanding of it. That's where my main focus is right now, because I have a really strong middle management team. What I'm trying to figure out is how to get myself out of those operations.
When you talk about mislabeling, so is this, I think this ties hand in hand with small firm. Ooh, it'll sound great if you're my chief operating officer, right?
Yeah.
And I am guilty of this. I mean, not anymore.
We all did it. We all did it.
Yeah. So what are some what's some advice that you have to people listening to this who have a small firm trying to give the title? Because to me, the title means nothing. You can call me the janitor. I don't care. But what I've been told and what I'm realizing is that other people do put value in the title. So how do you balance that? Right. Because I don't care.
What you have to do, if you're the owner of a firm, what you have to do is really, really do a deep dive on the levels of professional labor that are out there, right? I'm really strict about labeling now. So I don't call a legal assistant a paralegal. I don't call a paralegal a legal assistant. Paralegals are defined as you do litigation start to finish. You oversee the legal assistants. The legal assistant roles are very clearly defined. But this is after years of research, man. Like
job descriptions, right? Written job descriptions.
Right. Every position gets a job description. And before you pick the title, you got to look at the different titles in that vein, right? So I just brought up non-lawyers, right? So using operations is perfect. Or marketing. It's one of my favorites. I'm sitting at a table with people, even at Masterminds, and they go, oh, this is my CMO. I go, oh, you make $250 to $300 a year? No. I say, okay, what are you making? And if they say they're making a 25 to $150, they're really a marketing manager, right? And I know the salary levels that attach at the manager level, director level, and the executive level, right? There's typically 3 levels in, call them leadership roles, right? You've got what I've just defined, but it's with everything, right? Even with lawyers. Don't use the title senior attorney unless you've defined what that means, and do your market research. Right. I saw somebody on their resume had a senior attorney. They're 2 years into their career. I'm like, senior lawyer? Come on, man. That's 5-10 years. You know what I mean? And even there, be careful, because there's a wild swing in the skill sets between 5 and 10 year attorneys. So, and it's funny because one of the people that really was brilliant at this was Mike McCready. Mike's talked about, and it's public knowledge, where he has 3 or 4 tiers of lawyers in his firm. And he tells you what each tier does. It has the salary bands attached to it. And Mike is very honest about it. Mike was like, I had brought in an HR person who was very versed in compensation planning. Right. And sometimes we have that luck where you might hire an HR person and they're like, oh, I've designed comp plans before. Well, that's great. Let's put together a comp plan that puts out these salary bands for lawyers, non-lawyers, everybody else. You know what I mean? And it's all an iteration. It's all an iteration.
Yes. This will never be perfect at first. It'll never be perfect at second, third. It'll never be perfect in general, ever. But you do try to get better and better and better. And that's been a big main focus of mine. Just get a little better every day, every quarter, every month. And knowing that it's never going to be just snap your fingers and have it all be perfect. You're right. Now, the one last thing on this topic that I do want to also talk about is, how are you dealing with looking at the firm and going, well, yes, we have these layers of management and mid-management and a leadership team or an executive leadership team, which are all needed. But then I've had times where I've walked in and go, holy shit, we're now too bureaucratic. We are the bureaucracy that, especially in criminal defense, we want to be this scrappy, young fight against the bureaucracy of the police and the government. And I always say back, 7-8 years ago, we could make decisions. We were fast like a Coast Guard cutter. We can just move, right? And just make a decision, make a big U-turn, pivot. And the past 3 years or so, I felt like, well, we are so slow to make decisions because we are this aircraft carrier that now it takes forever for us to make a U-turn. And for me, it's been frustrating. So have you had those problems with your setup?
Not really. at this point because I'm good empowering people to make decisions without me. And obviously, if they're not lawyers, it's not legal related decisions, right? On cases, it's always the lawyers that fully vested with that authority on the cases. But
I mean, like changing your operations or changing an SOP, whether it's legal or HR or marketing or anything.
I don't get involved in any of that. I'm good. Look, we had one of the big pain points we had, just in full disclosure, was we had a ton of systems, but we had no system of accountability. So people weren't following them. And so that created mishigas. So what I do now is I've said to people, take our systems, tell me if there's stuff that we can do better. Like, so the person that just came on is the head of the PI vertical. She's got real systems-driven managerial chops. And I said to her, your first 90 days, you're just going to assess and you're going to plan and you're going to execute. But your first 90 days is just assessing. You have to meet the people and assess all of our systems, all of our documents, and give me a report at the end of the 90 days. That's a plan. And then let's discuss execution. But it's not like I expected to see the results in 30 days. Right? Because it's a massive 24-year project that she's basically now going to analyze and start to parse through it. And I was super surprised. Her first week, she started creating maps of our entire process using an Excel spreadsheet and setting up the entire workflow from the client journey perspective for personal injury. And we're already seeing, oh, we got a gap here. We need to fill that gap. We got this gap.
That's how you know you got a good one.
Yeah. She's really good. I hope that answers your question because I don't want to be in on every decision. One of the big frustrations that really changed my perspective, we had lost a few people and it was probably over a 2-3 month period and we were short staffed. And I was hearing from 2 key people in my organization, I can't delegate. We don't have somebody to delegate. And I would say, well, this multiple 7 figures in payroll that I have tells me otherwise. That means that somebody's too close to it myopically. I'm holding my hand right at the front of my nose, where what I want is somebody that's going to look at the problem and then push the hand back, all the way back, extend it out and say, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to figure out what we need to do to fix it, right? So I don't want to be in on every decision. What I am doing is I'm hiring people that I trust to make those decisions, right? And I do feel a certain nimbleness, right? Even though we're around the same size, I don't feel like we get bogged down necessarily. And very often I find myself saying now, when my leadership team comes to me and says, hey, I want to run this by you. I say, okay, well, what do you think is the answer? Because they know the answer, but they are still stuck in that old mindset of checking everything with me. So I'm going to stop making those decisions.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. Very helpful to me. Okay, Tom. So what's number, and you see, of course, right? We spent 10 minutes talking just about ops but that's how important ops is. And how much lawyers really struggle. And I think also we over lawyer it too. At least in my firm, we've over lawyered our SOPs and all these different things where just simple is better. Simple is scalable. One of our focuses now is just, scaling things down. We all of a sudden now have a 4-page contract. We're trying to get that down to a 1.5 pages for clients to sign up.
Simplify, man. Simplify. Yeah.
Just, 80-20 rule. It's okay. I'm telling the team, I'm like, hey guys, this is my new thing now for change management stuff is, guys, this is a beta test. Just look at it like a beta test. We're going to test. We're going to see. We're going to get feedback. Doesn't mean, we'll see what happens, right? And my team is starting to realize that, hey, we don't have to over lawyer this. We can just, fine. It's a test. It's a test.
Right.
This podcast is sponsored by TonaLaw. Attorneys, are you looking for a trusted partner for your New York personal injury referrals? Since 2001, TonaLaw has been the go-to New York personal injury law firm for attorneys and law firms across the U.S. At TonaLaw, we pay legal fee participation to referring attorneys in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. Refer us a case today and experience the TonaLaw difference. Call us now to discuss how we can work together at 844-TONA-LAW or visit us at TonaLaw.com.
All right. So, okay, what's the next one? What's number 6?
So you said it earlier. It's why I smiled so much. It's easier to see in others
Yeah.
and what others need to do than for ourselves. So literally there were a few firms there that were two verticals, right? So like I have personal injury and no-fault collections. There was a couple of people that had two vertical businesses. You're strictly criminal defense, but there were a bunch of firms, two verticals. And one person was speaking and said, this one is my passion project, but my margins are X. And this one is set it and forget it, and my margins are Y, and Y is really a good number, right? Y could be like 35% profit margins. So as I'm about to say something, I'm thinking, I got to listen to my own advice about what I'm just about to say, because we all have done that. We all have developed these passionate ties to one side of the business if you have more than one vertical. And yet the other side is easy to forget about because it's easy, right? It's high profitability, it's high volume, it's systems driven. And so as I was about to say it, I was like, I'm going to say something, but I'm saying it to myself more than to you right now. And then I started to go down that road. So basically it was what you said, which is it's easier to see what others need to do than to look in the mirror and see what we need to do. Because that's the hard stuff, right? That's the emotional ties we have to who we think we are, which is that David Neagle stuff that you and Jen Gore were talking about,
Right. And I'll give a little thing that came up recently in my EO forum. So I'm an entrepreneurs organization, the South Florida chapter. We have like 350 or so entrepreneurs in South Florida. And we have our forum group, which my forum, I think, is 7 people. And I'm not going to break forum confidentiality. I was having a discussion, and out of our forum, there's 2 of us, me and a chiropractor, who are, we're entrepreneurial, highly skilled professionals. And I wanted to be in a room with people who were real business entrepreneurs that had nothing to do with high skilled technical work. And so, I don't identify myself as and put value in myself as an attorney anymore, but I'm still very emotionally invested in the law firm. Right. Yeah. It's an emotional thing. Now, also, we have our mission and our vision and our core values. And our mission is to help good people when bad things happen so they can achieve their best future, is to be community and relationship builders in South Florida. So that's a big part of what we do. But I'm having a discussion with one of my forum mates, and I won't say the industry that he's in, but he's in an industry that requires low technical skill, low paid employees. That is a service, but it's a generic service. And he's like, guys, this is my 3rd business. And he's only 31 years old, I think 31 years old. And he's like, this is my 3rd business. I don't care about the business. I have no emotion, meaning like I have no emotional attachment to the low technical skills that we, service that we provide.
Right.
I goes, this business is a vehicle for me to make as much money as possible, doing as little work as possible. There is no altruistic nature to this business, right? And doesn't mean that he's a bad person. He's not. He's a great person and a caring and giving and a charitable person. But he looks at his business in so much of a different way than I do. But that's also because I was trained, brainwashed, whatever, right, to go to law school and have to deal with these things and have that emotional attachment to the technical skills that we provide. And so that's actually one of the reasons I joined EOS, because again, I wanted to be around people like this who were true, real, 100% entrepreneurs, not attorney entrepreneurs.
Right.
And it's really, yes, I mean, I still look, our business. And I think one of the things that makes Rossen Law Firm very special is that we are emotionally invested, but having to be able to kind of step back and try to be that omnipresent, or omnipotent, character looking down, right, and seeing things in that way. It has given me a little more perspective just to say, okay, well, wait a minute. Why do I have to be so emotionally invested, right? I'm not going to divest everything, but just understand that, look, this is still a business. It's a vehicle to help people, but this is not my life. There's other things, and everything's going to be okay. And I can kind of look at this truly more from an on the business perspective rather than an in the business, and look at this as if this was somebody else's business and not just be so emotionally invested.
And I also think it's a spectrum. And I think that it swings more one way to the other way, depending on the cases that are coming in, the clients that you're connecting with. And it's good that it does that, right? Sometimes you need to pull more away and be really detached. And sometimes you need to really get involved. Like I have a case right now. I don't even know if we can help the woman, but I'm trying. And so without getting into too much detail, it's a hellacious case, but I don't know if we can help, and you can't help everybody, right? And that's just a reality. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're saying. I think it's just a matter of having the different exposures. I think that's really important. I'm actually joining EO because of you. But I also think that, I just reached out to them. And I think it's good to just have perspective of the spectrum that's there and then be conscious of where you lay at any given time in that spectrum.
Right. Because I'm not going to shift completely and just have no emotional attachment, right? And just be like, profits, right? That's not who I am. That's not what makes our firm special.
Right. And there are lawyers like that. We probably both know them. And I don't know that I would want to hire that law firm if I had a high stakes criminal defense case that I needed handled, or a high stakes personal injury case.
Correct. And so for me, it's more about just seeing another perspective and then identifying, hey, what's best for me? And if you're right on the spectrum, if I was at 10 this way and my friend in my form is a 1, well, can I notch it down to a 7, or can I go from a 7 to a 5? Right. And just
and where are you most effective? Where are you most effective as both? So I think that that's important to be aware of.
Yeah. All right. So let's go with number 7. This is a good one.
All right. So this one is, it's going to sound hilarious, but I don't eat sugar at all. European dessert cures most of what ails you. So in France, when I was in Paris, and I was in Paris 2 years ago, I ate what's called a millefleur, which is a Napoleon. They make them different than they do here in the States and even in Italy. And I ate 1, and then I ate 2 a day, right? A day, because it was unbelievable. Still one of my favorite desserts. And then I went to Portugal. I'm like, I got to find a favorite dessert because I don't eat sugar at all. And I ate a pastel de nata, which is like a custard cream dessert, it's like the national dessert of Portugal. And I ate one everywhere I went. And then I ate at a place called Je ne sais quoi, which had a dessert called dinosaur drool. I have never had anything like it. It was delicious. And I went back and had it 3 different days. It was that good. That's a little tongue in cheek, but how bad can things be when you're trying all of these different desserts that you didn't even know existed?
Well, I am physically and probably mentally and emotionally addicted to sugar. I'm a sweet.
Okay.
I have a big sweet tooth. But I will say, Tom, I'm going to call you out because a year and a half ago when we were in New Orleans together, I could have sworn you had a beignet.
I did.
At least one at Cafe Du Monde.
Yep. Okay. Well, I will tell you that, dude, I'm telling you, I went decades without eating sugar. I've never had soda, but I've gotten away from the rigidity because, again, I look at it like at 56, do I really want to go through such an austere life of not trying the one thing that a place is famous for, like a beignet, right? I was glad I had it. It was an experience with really good friends over coffee, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So, and I didn't feel bad because I never eat like that. So, and it was the same thing. Like my daughter and my wife take such great delight when I eat sugar because they don't feel guilty because they love it. And so when I'm on vacation, I'm going to eat it.
And you should, right? Enjoy life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, number 8.
Okay. I went to my first music festival, NAS 2025, and I learned the power of yes, right? The power of saying yes to everything when my family asks for it. So Olivia Rodrigo is my daughter's favorite musician, and the tickets here are like $3,000, $2,000, whatever. And I'm never paying that for tickets. So they find this festival in Lisbon called NAS 2025. It starts at 4 p.m. It goes to 4 a.m. We didn't go the whole time, but Olivia Rodrigo, Benson Boone, and Noah Kahan were playing. And it's my wife's favorite musician is Noah Kahan. My daughter's favorite musician is Olivia Rodrigo. And so we go there and there's thousands of people, which I hate being in large crowds. And we're literally standing shoulder to shoulder for 7 hours. Now I'm arthritic. My back is killing me. But watching my daughter just explode in joy and sing for 7 hours straight with Olivia Rodrigo. And I realized that like saying yes to the people that matter. And it's easy at my age to get into a really routine place of, I don't want to do X outside of my comfort zone. I'm not going, go without me. And I would tell anybody, experiment with just saying yes for a period of certain amount of time. Because I've started doing that with them over and over and over again. And it's really strengthened our relationships and really brought us a lot closer. Because it's kind of selfish when you say no to stuff like that.
Well, and think about the bonding experience. You're in Portugal on,
Yes.
right, making a hybrid business, personal, family trip. And here
Right.
you are, you get to do something amazing with your wife, with your daughter. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. It sounds, I mean, it's just amazing that you're able to do this. And, sometimes when large crowds, and it is easy to say no, but
Yeah.
for you to be able to have that mindset, and look, that's something, again, that is making you and your daughter even closer. And it's look, as we get older, and we probably, if we remember back as teenagers, but now over the next 10 years, your daughter's going to be evolving. I mean, she'll still always be your daughter, but it's more of a peer, relationship
Correct.
of, well, this is my dad. And, I look at these fun, cool things that I did with him, not as more like parent-child, but more of peer to peer. Right. And so it starts with things like this, where you guys can be out in public and have cool times, fun times.
Yeah. And I often find myself saying yes when old me would have said no. I would regret it so much if I missed out on those experiences. But the problem is, and I forget who was saying it even at the Mastermind. Oh, I just read it online. Somebody posted, when I go on vacation, I don't want to do anything. I just want to relax. I'm exhausted. And my wife just wants to go, go, go. And so what I've tried to do is get into a rhythm where we get a little relaxation in the beginning. I get caught up on sleep and de-stress, and then just say yes to everything. Because I imagine if I would have said no and I knew what I had missed on my deathbed, how much regret I would have over that. And I just don't want to live like that. So I find myself with my wife and my daughter saying yes to anything they want to do experientially, because I still, I don't believe in frivolous money spending or anything. And that goes into the next thing where I learned the power of saying no and delayed gratification. Because when you're walking down streets like Avenue de Libertad, which is like, Fifth Avenue level shopping, right? Every luxury store. That I say no to easily, right?
But you got the VAT refund, Tom.
You got the VAT refund within reason. But I saw these people going in and out of these luxury stores with bags and bags and bags. And I was like, it's just a hole you can't fill up. So I balance the power of yes to experiences to the power of delayed gratification when it comes to shopping, because it's like a sugar rush and a dopamine rush that goes away so fast. And I've never been that guy. So I'm not big on fancy luxury things. I just kept thinking what a racket luxury brands are. I just kept thinking what a racket they are, that they've convinced people they need to spend X amount on a pocketbook or. So I learned the power of yes and the power of delayed gratification, or saying no to the right things. I want to spend my time and money on experiences.
Right. Okay. Experiences rather than things.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely. Now, I believe you are a secret Olivia Rodrigo fan, so I think you wanted to go for you. At least, maybe if not before,
now
you are
I am.
now. I know you are.
Oh, my God. I got as much anger as Olivia Rodrigo towards things. I don't even understand why I'm angry now.
But I'll tell you, when we did our day trip in Milan, I've never been to Milan. And Milan was gorgeous. It was actually really cool. And yes, we did the shopping. So my wife we went to the original Prada store, and my wife is not big into having all the fancy things, but she likes it. And, she found something that she really liked. And for me, it was this wasn't, sitting there going, blowing money fast, but it was, okay, we're here. We do well. It's nice to have nice things. And so, she got a purse and she felt happy. And here we were in the original Prada store. And we were there. And then I went to Ferragamo. I got a really nice tie. I got another, Ferragamo belt, and, I'm happy. Did I drop thousands? No, but it was good. It was a good balance.
Listen, we did that too, but doing one or two things is the result of the delayed gratification of not doing it all the time, right? Where you can go away on vacation and make it a special thing. And, you can pick out one pocketbook, but you're not going to pick out, a $20,000 Birkin bag that's just, that's tuition for your daughter's school or your son's school.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's being selective and having that impulse control all your life, so that when you go on vacation, you can do something that's a little out of the ordinary.
Right. And we did go to Hermes, and I was there being a smart ass, just being like, oh, I'd like to buy a Birkin. Where are they? And just messing around. They're looking at me like, they're just going, stupid American,
Right.
But okay, so that's 8 and 9, right? We have an example of the law of polarity, right? We have the power of yes, but also the power of no. So let's take us home with number 10.
So the last thing was, I discovered that as much mindfulness study as I pride myself on doing, and I've been meditating for 10 years now, if you really want to discover your true level of equanimity or your true level of mindfulness, travel with your 15-year-old child and then tell me how far you've come. Because nothing will test you like being in a hotel room that has an adjoining suite with a 15-year-old girl who now has a crush on a boy in Portugal, and she's got to take an hour to get ready, and you're late for dinner, and you're trying to remain zen. It will give you a different perspective on your level of equanimity. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, especially 15, right? That's a tough age.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, but again, it was a great trip, and I appreciate you doing this because too many people we know are so stuck in the weeds or the pain or the fires. And I would say to them, probably the best thing you could do is book a vacation, make it 2 to 3 weeks long, and figure out what your business needs by not interacting with your business.
Yeah. And look, this 12 days or so that I went, I spent 2 days in Zurich, 2 days in Lugano, and about 7 days or so in Lake Como. I was talking to my wife and I'm like, wow, this is the longest trip that we've taken since our 3-week honeymoon in 2018. And we got married in 2016 and didn't take our honeymoon for 2 years after. Now, look, there was COVID, there were 2 babies, there was COVID, there was a bunch of different things. And we've been the kings of the 3 to 5 day vacations, either with or without the kids. But to go away for 10 days, 12 days, 17 days is a big difference. And it was such a great trip for me. We went with 4 couples. We had some alone time with my wife. Basically, the 4 couples met up in Lake Como, but the Zurich, we had, a day or two, just me and my wife. And then another one of the couples came in and met us in Zurich. So we had a combo of alone time with just another one of our couple of friends, and then times with the 4 of us. And yeah, we missed our kids, but it really wasn't until the last 2 or 3 days when I was like, all right, I really miss them. I'm ready to come home. And it was just such a nice trip versus the classic 3 to 5 day long weekend trips. So
it's not enough. It's not enough. Yeah, it's not enough. I was told you need to take a minimum of 2 weeks. And when I do Europe, it's always a minimum of 2 weeks. And I'm doing more and more of that because it's just not enough decompression time. And do the Jesse Itzler analysis. He's got that big life calendar thing he does. Right. I don't do the big life calendar thing, but you said you're 45?
44. Don't
44. So let's say you live to 80. That gives you 36 more years of vacations? If I did my math right, 36 vacations. If you take one big vacation a year, it's 36. I got a lot less. That's not enough, right? It's never going to be enough that you say you spend time with your wife, your kids, and we're killing ourselves for this business. 36 vacations. And I have less. I'm 56. So if I make it to 84, you're talking about 24 vacations?
But that's left? Also assuming your last 5 years, you're going to be able to take these great epic vacations.
And I saw that with my father. Yeah. I saw that with my dad. He was not able to travel after 75 and he lived to 83. Right. So that's a great point. So I mean, I would urge people to just get that perspective in line because the stuff we think matters, man, it really doesn't.
Well, and also just one last thing is we're so used to just pushing and driving things forward and making things happen that a lot of times less truly is more. To do more, you have to stop doing things and you have to do less in order to do more. And that's so hard to do. It's easy to say. I'm still dealing with that myself, but that's something where I'm learning. And look, I got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. So we have that 15 plus years of schooling of the school calendar now, but I'm already looking things that 5 years ago, I didn't care about spring break or summer break. It meant nothing to me. I can come and go as I please, where now I'm trying to be deliberate. Okay, what do I want our summers to look like?
Right.
The boys are eventually going to go to summer. Right. And then the boys are going to be in summer camp. So do we pick one maybe in the Pennsylvania? Do they go to someone in North Carolina or Georgia? And then what do I want? And now with COVID, right after COVID, and especially since I'm not beholden to judges, I'm not in production, we can get a mountain house in Asheville and spend 3-4 weeks there. I want to do that. And part of that is I would love to still have a morning check-in, a morning meeting, go out into the town with my wife, hang out, decompress, come back, check in and balance the two. some days. But to
Right.
me, it's like, well, I can do some work there too. Why not? And Christmas, looking at Lake Como and seeing, that obviously we were there summer, but saying, wow, I would love to spend Christmas in Lake Como. That would be gorgeous. And
Right.
during that time, not worry about the business at all. And what are we going to do for spring break? Maybe, do we take a cruise? Do we go on a vacation here and there? And just
Look at Marco Brown. Dude bought a villa outside of Bologna and he's going there all summer. Like, it's doable. It's just, you got to redefine the paradigm you want to work within as the owner of the business. Like, do you work for the business or does the business work for you? Right.
And that's a thriving firm and will continue to thrive.
Yeah. He's multi-state, and that doesn't mean it's easy, right? He works his ass off, I'm sure, like everybody else, just doing, what he's built to do. So that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate you doing this for me, taking the time.
Yeah.
Listen, man, anytime you want to do a takeover, it's all yours, man. And anybody that needs criminal defense in Florida, Adam Rossen's your guy.
Yep. We also handle federal and white collar cases nationwide. So if it's federal white collar, we do that, or any type of federal case we handle nationwide. But yeah, we have a saying in South Florida: come on vacation, don't leave on probation. I know most people listening to this have somebody
That's awesome.
in South Florida. So we're your people for that.
There you go. All right, man. Thanks again for doing it, Adam. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by TonaLaw. Attorneys, are you looking for a trusted partner for your New York personal injury referrals? Since 2001, TonaLaw has been the go-to New York personal injury law firm for attorneys and law firms across the U.S. At TonaLaw, we pay legal fee participation to referring attorneys in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. Refer us a case today and experience the TonaLaw difference. Call us now to discuss how we can work together at 844-TONA-LAW or visit us at TonaLaw.com.